I'm an intern with Education USA from the University of Chicago, and today we'll be going over the basic structure of the SAT as well as practicing for the SAT math section. Okay, so generally we're thinking mics should be off unless you have a question. Camera can be on or off. Any questions can and definitely should please ask as many questions as you can. Be put in the in the chat box. Yeah, so let's get started. So the SAT. So the SAT, it's a standardized test that universities and colleges in the US use to determine the suitability of certain applicants. It tests 4 areas: reading, writing, language, and math. Though math, that's a bit deceiving though, because math is half of the test. It's graded on a 1600 scale, with I believe the lowest score being 400 and the highest score being 1600. Of the 1600 points, there are 2 scores that can be graded between 200 and 800. One is for reading, writing, and language, and one is for math. The test is administered by the College Board and is accepted by most colleges in the United States. Okay, so as I said, 4 sections: reading, writing and language, math with no calculator, and then math with a calculator. The test is mostly multiple choice, though in the math section there are a few questions that are answered by filling in bubbles of like specific numbers. I'll explain that more later. Total time it takes is 3 hours. They tend to give around 10-minute breaks between each section, so plan accordingly. For that, when you take the test, that it's pretty much a whole morning. Yeah. So here's the order of the tests and the time it takes. Feel free to take a look at that. As for the essay is optional, though we strongly recommend you take it. It is 50 minutes, and it generally involves taking, you start with a passage of writing, and you're asked to kind of dissect the argument that passage is making in an essay. It is not graded on the normal 1600 scale. What they do is they give you three scores for that between 2 and 8. So hold on, I think I have that somewhere. Yeah, here. So on the essay, you're graded on reading of the passage you're assigned, analysis of that passage, and writing, just how well you write about it. Each dimension of that is scored between 2 and 8, with an 888 being the perfect score, the highest score you can get. You will receive a raw score for each area, and a full score between 400 and 1600. A lot of colleges in the United States do what's called super scoring, where they take the highest score for each of the 2. They take your highest math score and your highest reading and grammar scores and combine them. So suppose you take the SAT twice, and one time you get a 700 on math and a 600 on reading and writing. And then you take it again and you get a 700 on reading and writing and a 600 on math. Many colleges will take that as a 1400 because they'll take the highest score you had on both sections and add that up rather than the specific scores you got. But not all do. Okay, now that we've talked about a bit about the structure of the test, let's dive into today's section. We'll be working specifically on math, starting with the no calculator section and progressing into the math section that does use a calculator. Okay? Okay. Math portion is split into two parts, as we've said. The first one, you are not allowed to use a calculator and it's shorter. The second one, you are allowed to use a calculator and it's longer. The section without a calculator, it doesn't involve any particularly difficult mental math, actually. It's a lot more conceptual. You really shouldn't have very much trouble doing it on, doing all of it using, a pen and paper. So we'll be going over that. Yeah, great. So is everyone ready to start working on questions? First of all, I guess I'll ask, does anyone have any questions before they'd like to ask? Feel free to put it in the chat or raise your hand. Okay, so no questions about the test so far, I suppose, unless I'm missing something.
I don't think we have any questions, Jack, for now.
Okay, great. So let's get started. So what I will do is I will display a question on the PowerPoint and give you a little bit of time to solve it. Once you are finished with the question, please use the hand raising function to raise your hand and show me you have finished. Just raise your hand when you're done. Then we will go over it, okay? Okay, so here's the first question for today. This is no calculator, but you are allowed to use scrap paper to work on your answer. Yeah, here we go.
I can't see the option of raise my hand, but I have the answer.
Great, thank you. Okay, so a few people have gotten it.
If you're having trouble with the raise hand option, just maybe type on the chat box a thumbs up or something to let us know that you are done.
Do I have to type the answer?
No, I would just
Not yet.
Okay, thank you.
Just indicate in the chat box that you finished with the question. Okay, so we have, I think we're mostly finished, but I'll give people another few seconds. Okay. Are people ready to go over this? I think so. So, sorry. Um, so the answer to this question is D, 10. Um, I assume some of you got that. Could anyone who got that answer raise their hand to explain what they did quickly? Okay, Mariana?
Yeah. So first I put the 3 on the part that says K. And then I I don't know how to say it in English, but
Try your best, just, sort of.
I move like all the other numbers to leave the X like alone. And
Isolating the variable, we call that in English.
what? How?
Isolating the variable.
Oh,
So
yeah.
mhm.
And yeah, so I did like um a a product and then um a sum. I don't know how to say it. Yeah.
No, no, I think you have it exactly right.
And yeah, so the answer is 10, I think.
Yeah, no, 10 is the answer. I'll talk more about this later, but one thing, one nice thing that you can do with this problem is that since you have two variables, since you have two variables and you solved for one, you can plug it back in to the problem and try and resolve it to see if to check. So it takes a little while, and you're on a time crunch, but quickly, if you wanted to, you could just say, okay, so 10 minus 1 over 3 equals 3, and k equals 3. So that works out. Okay. One FYI, it's not quite as simple as, I mean, it's a bit more complicated than this, but generally the questions start easier and get harder throughout the test. Okay? So, this one, it's not, that much easier than the questions you'll get later on, but it's certainly shorter and a bit more straightforward. Okay, let's get on with the next one. Same as last time, type in the chat or raise your hand or, indicate to me that you've finished. Sorry. Okay, so people are starting to get it. Of course, I'll give a little longer, but yeah. I mean, just one thing to note. If there's any of this that you know like just didn't learn or need a refresher on, there's videos on the internet. Of course, there's nothing to be ashamed of. It's easy to forget math concepts you learned in ninth grade. Yeah, and I'll try and explain what I can. So I think okay, lower your hands. Um, I think we can start to go over now. So the answer, I believe, is the answer is A. Uh, this is I think this is an interesting question because in a way here I'll pull up a pointer even though it's not super necessary, I think. Like this whole part of the question, like starting out with this, isn't really necessary for solving it because I isn't really treated in this as the square root of -1. It's just treated like another variable. So it's important to note that sometimes they will give information that sort of tries to throw you off. And you want to kind of try and pick through that and really just ask exactly what are they looking for. So here they're just looking for the sum of these two expressions. It doesn't matter that I is the square root of -1. This, I think the key is to just kind of try and keep your numbers straight. 7 plus -8 is -1, and 3i plus 9i is 12i, making A the answer. Okay, so let's move on. A word problem, everybody's favorite. I'll give you a while. I'll read it out loud because why not? But I'll give you a while to solve it. On Saturday afternoon, Armand sent M text messages each hour for 5 hours, and Tyrone sent P text messages each hour for 4 hours. Which of the following represents the total number of messages sent by Armand and Tyrone on Saturday afternoon? So this is a sort of a different one because it's not really asking you to solve anything. It's just asking you to express something in mathematical terms. But take a look, read through the options, and same as before, indicate to me when you are ready to talk about it. Okay, so maybe we should be timing people. I'll pull up a timer and I put about 2 minutes on the clock. I don't know, maybe. Yeah, I'll put on 2 minutes. On the test, you're generally supposed to be. Yeah, I think 2 minutes is reasonable. I think you're doing what, 20 questions in 35 minutes. So, you have a little less than 2 minutes for each question on the test, but we're practicing, so I'll use 2 minutes. I'll do 1 minute because I've been talking for a while for this. Okay, great. Okay, great. So, could somebody who feels pretty certain about this, lower your hands, I guess, everyone, first of all. And could somebody who feels pretty confident that they got the answer to this right, please raise their hand and explain why they got the answer they did, just how they arrived at it.
I think I can answer the question.
Great, go for it.
As we can see in the text, the text says, Amanda sent M test messages each hour for 5 hours. So what I did, I multiply 5 per M. After that, I did the same thing with P and 4. Those are the, well, I have to add one to the other, and that's the total number of messages.
Yeah, so the answer you got is C?
Yeah, see.
Nice. The College Board, it's not exact, but I've heard people say that the College Board sometimes likes to give one or two obviously wrong answers, one that's pretty close, and one that is correct, of course. And in this case, I think the main place that a lot of points would be lost, frankly, is between C and D, because just getting the letters right. I think it's extremely important to keep track of that, because they will try and trip you up on that, as sort of annoying as it may seem. Just double check, be very deliberate, very careful in the way that you work with, like when they have two variables, knowing which one is which and where you want each. Okay, so I think, just by the way, instead of doing the everybody raise their hand when they're done, I'm just going to set 2 minutes on the timer now, and I'm sure some people will be done by then. If not, I'll give a little longer. But no need to raise your hand when you're done, starting now. Okay. Here is another one. I will put 2 minutes on the timer. And go. I'll read it out loud too. Sorry. Kathy is a repair technician for a phone company. Each week she receives a batch of phones that need repairs. The number of phones that she has left to fix at the end of each day can be estimated with the equation P equals 108 minus 23D, where P is the number of phones left and D is the number of days she has worked that week. What is the meaning of the value 108 in this equation? Just by the way, if you're having a little trouble with this, or it's a little new to you, or you're not getting them in 2 minutes, I really wouldn't worry too much. There's a learning curve to this. Practice makes perfect, and you can really raise your scores with practice. So no need to worry too much today about it. Just try and familiarize yourself. Don't get too nervous. Nervousness is very unproductive on a test like this. And we are done. Can somebody who feels, Marcos, you have a question?
No, maybe I have the correct answer, but I don't know if I'm right. Can I share with you the choice that I did?
Please do. Please do.
Okay. Well, basically, this 108 is a constant value. So this means that should have a sort of meaning in the process of repairing the phones by Katie. So I think that letter A, it will not be possible because basically she doesn't need 108 days to repair the telephone. So letter A is not correct to me. Then we have letter C, that repairs phones at a rate of 108 per hour, and in the text doesn't appear any information that explain that situation, that she have a sort of rate during each week. So letter C is not correct. Then letter D, that repairs phones at a rate of 108 per day. It's basically the same reason that I shared with you. So to me, the correct answer is letter B. That you start each week with 108 phones to fix. Probably is the number of phones that she receive each week. So maybe this is a good reason to explain that constant value, but I don't know if I'm agree. Thank you so much for your time.
No, that's completely right. Very, very well done. And I particularly went through all the other answers and found and sort of understood why they were wrong. If you can understand why some answers are wrong, that can be every bit as important as understanding why the correct one is correct. You always want to eliminate as many answers as possible. If you're confused, especially if you just have no idea really what the correct answer is, still try and eliminate as many answers as you can. Because then, even if, you're down to the wire and you don't have any time left, then, then you can at least guess between two answers rather than four, maybe. And that is a, of course, better odds and such. I'll go over this more later as well, but do not leave any questions on the SAT, the main SAT. SAT subject tests are different, but do not leave any questions on the main SAT test blank. They do not penalize guessing, and so you always have a chance of getting it right, even if you have no idea and you just didn't get to it. I would fill in any that you hadn't finished just with the letter C maybe. Okay, so next question. And I am starting a 2-minute timer. Okay. So, Andres, you have your hand up. Does that mean that you have a question or that you think you got it?
I got it.
Great, great. Talk us through.
Sorry?
Great. What'd you get? And talk us through how you got there.
Yeah, well, first of all, I have like between similar expressions, like for example, x at square and y, and there's like a minus expression there that affects all the parentheses. So there's like, for example, x at square y minus x square y. There's like that because it affects the parentheses, it's like a plus. So it's 2x square y. And then we have minus 3y at square. And the other one is minus 3y square. And also because it affects the parentheses, it's a plus. It's like convert to a plus. So minus 3y at square plus 3y square, it's 0, and it disappears. And then we have 5xy square minus plus 3xy square. And also because it affects the parentheses, there it's like a conversion to a minus. So it's 5 minus 3, and there's 2. So I think it's letter C. 2x square y plus 2x y square.
Perfect. Yeah, no, that's completely right. Yeah, this is one thing that that was interesting about this one is how I think everybody starts out by adding the x squared y and subtracting a negative x squared y. So they start out with 2x squared y, and there are 2 options with that. So early on you have 2 eliminated. So just try and get a handle on which answers you aren't dealing with soon to kind of clear it out so you can get to the answer more quickly. You want to be deciding between as few answers as possible. Okay, next question. Timer started. H equals 3a plus 28.6. A pediatrician uses the model above to estimate the height h of a boy in inches in terms of the boy's age, a, in years, between the age of 2 and 5. Based on the model, what is the estimated increase in inches of a boy's height each year? Okay, so anyone who thinks I got it right, raise their hand. No one confident on this one? Okay. Valeria.
In the model, it says that the height, it depends in the 3-year-old has increased 28.6. So I only divided 28.6 in 3, and that gives 9.5.
One sec. I believe, one sec, sorry. Manny, could you check the answer? It's in the PowerPoint notes. I believe it's actually, I believe the answer is actually A.
Yeah.
Though I totally see where you're coming from.
Mhm.
I think, so I believe what happened, I believe what the problem is generally saying is that starting at the age of 2, like, so this equation measures height from the age of children between the ages of 2 and 5. So it starts with, and I think what it's implying is that a child is 28.6 inches tall on average, starting at the age of 2, and then increases 3 inches every year. That's how you end up with 3A. 3 inches and A standing for the number of years. So what it means, I believe, is 28.6 is where you start off, and then 3 is the amount you grow every year between the age of 2 and 5. So, but I mean, what you said is completely understandable. I think, you know, I see what you mean. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
If I could add something.
Valeria? Valeria?
Yes, I understand. Thank you.
Okay. Um,
If I could add
Okay.
something, Jack.
What was that?
If I could add something.
Please do.
Yeah, so I think what happened there is something that happens often when it comes to math tests. Sometimes when reading the question, we'll have a certain path in mind of where we think the question's taking us. Um, it might have seemed a bit, it might have made sense in the moment to just divide 28.6 by 3 straight off the bat. But I think it's also hugely important to like sometimes the finer details of each question really help. So I think especially the set of words between the ages of 2 and 5, um, it matches up very well with the age A and years. So I think it's important to make sure that you're paying attention to the finer details of each question so that you can make the connection between those. But yeah, I think it's just important not to rush yourself as well. Sometimes it's better to come up with the answer um, and take your time a bit more with questions that have a lot more details in them. So yeah, but great job. Great job.
Okay. Yeah. Good luck with this one. It's a lot to keep track of. I'm putting 2 minutes on the clock. Okay. So, yeah. Raise your hand if you think you got an answer to this. It's gonna be quite a pain to explain this one, but okay, Marcos, just give like a very basic idea,
Okay, thank you so much. Well, we basically have to remember the rules of the arithmetic expression that we have, because when we are looking for gives the expression in terms of p, we have to remember that the opposite operation of the multiplication is division, right? So the correct answer is letter B. If I am correct, just let me know. Thank you so much.
Manny, is that right? It's in the notes, which I can't access right now.
So apparently, the correct answer would be A,
Interesting.
which is very interesting.
This is a difficult one. One moment. Yeah, so yeah, this is I would say that this is this problem is, oh great, sorry. This problem is sort of trying to confuse you more than sort of trying to confuse you. Generally, so like all this, I'll bring up the pointer. All of this, complexity up here, you don't really have to deal with it. Like, you just have to keep in mind that there's a numerator and a denominator. And generally, I think the point of the question, that you have a fraction times a constant. I mean, you have a fraction times a variable, and then equals another variable. If you flip that fraction upside down and multiply it by the other variable, it equals. So I'm not explaining this well. It's difficult, but
no, it's correct. It's correct. You are very clear. Your idea is very clear.
So just, I guess I'd say the simple way of doing it is multiply both sides by, I'll pull back the pointer, multiply both sides by the bottom, and then divide both sides by the top. And then you have, and then you just have p isolated, and isolating the variable is what you want, of course. And then you have this part on top and this part on the bottom. Nice job. This is another one, I think, where the College Board is just trying to trip you up with a lot of sort of needless data that really isn't relevant to the actual meat of the problem. Here's another one. Short and sweet.
I have a question. Can we
Oh, yeah, of
confirm
course.
that in
Yeah,
can we confirm that in the last exercise the correct answer is letter B or A?
It was
Which
A,
is
correct?
okay,
Manny, it was
thank
A,
you.
right?
I actually went back and looked, and it actually is B,
Oh,
It's B, right?
which is interesting.
oh,
Yeah,
It's B.
it is.
Yeah.
oh,
It is B.
sorry. Yeah, no, you got it
Oh,
completely
No,
right. Sorry.
yeah, that's not your fault, Jack. Yeah, I
Thank
think
you so much.
it was
Oh,
a brief
nice job.
confusion, but yes, that was a great job. Yeah, I think again,
Yes.
the question and the detailing in it is like Jack mentioned, it's meant to confuse us very easily. But you guys were right on it, so yeah.
Okay, great
Thank
job.
you so much. Thank you so much.
No, great job. Sorry, I got that wrong. Okay, here we are. Okay, so anyone who's feels pretty sure they got it, raise your hand and give us a quick explanation of how you got there.
I think I can explain the answer.
Great, go for it.
The correct answer is C, 2.
Correct, the correct answer is C.
Okay, at the beginning of the sentence, we can see A divided by B equal 2. So we can infer that the opposite is B divided by A. And I thought, well, I see the fraction as 2 divided by 1, and the opposite 1 divided by 2. So I just replaced that on the at the end of the sentence. 4 multiplied by 1 divided by 2. So the result is 2.
Correct. Yeah, I did it similarly. I just multiplied, for the first part, I just multiplied both sides by B. You know, A equals 2B, plugged in 2B for this A, for the A in the second expression, and you're good. Yeah, great. Okay, next question. Sorry. Okay, so anyone pretty sure they got this? Hand up. Mariana, go for it.
Yes. So the first thing I did was a system of equations, and the one that I used was the one of where you like isolate the variable, and then you like evaluate to the other. I don't know. Yeah. So
Yeah.
then I like made some calculations such as multiply and the 3 to pass it to the other side, and then I like did some sum and yes, I don't know. And the answer is B, I think.
B.
So I first got the variable G, and then with that number, I like put it in one of the equations to get X. So I think the answer is B. Is it?
Yeah. No, I think B is right. Manny, could you confirm that?
Yep, the answer is B.
Yeah. And with systems of equations, it's particularly helpful because you can because obviously you can plug your answer back in and check. That's that's how I checked in my head a second ago. Just plug 3 in for X and 8 in for Y, and you're good. You can solve this problem just by plugging every single combination of solutions in. I go over this later. That's inefficient. If you don't know what to do, it's a decent strategy, but it can be kind of inefficient time-wise. So I would recommend, trying something like what Mariana did. But plugging back in can definitely be a helpful tactic to check. We've been at this for about 64 minutes now, so I think everyone deserves a break. Why don't we reconvene at 11:11 to be even, I guess, to be symmetrical. Yeah, stretch, get some water. I'm going. Great. Cool. Okay. So, next question. Okay, one sec. Okay. So, starting a 2-minute timer on this one. Okay. So, Pietro, you have your hand up. You want to take a shot at this?
Okay. I'm not sure if I'm right, but I believe that
Perfectly fine.
the correct answer is A8 because, well, regardless, like I figured out that A equals -2. It didn't matter because like 4 squared and -4 squared is 16. So it's like the same answer.
Mhm.
So that's why I reached.
Manny, is that right? Sorry, I'm not 100% sure on this one. Manny?
Yeah, the correct answer would be A.
Great job. Okay. Next. 2-minute timer starting now. Okay. So anyone pretty confident on this? Want to take a shot at it? Anyone? Going once, going twice? Okay. So, okay, I'm just,
I think it's letter C because, well, what I do, and it's kind of maybe too, I forgot the word. But well, I began like multiplying, like for example, 2.335 plus 0.25 multiplied per one, and I like have the amount in pounds per dollar, and then I multiply it per two, and then per three, and in that way till I have like the same amount in both, and I got it was the C.
see. Manny, is that right? I think it is. Manny?
I do believe the correct answer was actually D.
D. Really? Interesting.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I think the way that the way that we're approaching the problem for this one, So the question does ask, what was the price per pound of beef when it was equal to the price per pound of chicken? And that essentially means when were the variables B and C the same? And so they've given us each equation for each of the variables. So what we would do then is, Natalia, you said you can explain how it works?
Yes, I'm actually her brother. Well, we're taking the class like together. So
Okay.
my name is Marco, but he's also here.
Yeah, do you
So-
mind explaining, Marco?
Yes, yes. So what you need to do is the question says that if B equals C, well, if the price per pound of beef equals the price per pound of chicken, that what would be the value? So what you need to do is like put the two equations equal. So 2.35 plus 0.25x equals 1.75 plus 0.40x. And then wait a minute, and then isolate the variable x and solve for x. When you solve for x and get the value of x that at the end is 4, you need to substitute it in either of the formulas b equals 2.35 or b equals 1.75 plus 0 plus 40x, and the answer would be 3.35.
Nice. So now I think I'm going to skip ahead a bit. I made a lot of questions for this because I'm always worried about time, but I think, I think we have more than enough material. So I'm going to move on to so now these problems do not have answer choices. What you will do on the test is you will it will allow you to fill in bubbles for specific numbers. So, suppose your answer was, 6.2. It would allow you to fill in the bubble for 6, and then a bubble for a decimal point, and then a bubble for 2. Yeah, so 2 minutes on the clock for this one. Just, yeah, go for it. Okay, so sorry, one moment. Natalia, why don't you go? Natalia, would you like to explain? Okay, how about Paula then?
Yeah, thank you. So first off, we already know that t is bigger than 0. So you can already take out all negative numbers. And then we know that something squared minus 4 equals 0. So you just have to find the number that squared is equal to 4, since if you take out 4, it equals 0. So the only correct answer could be 2.
Yep. Okay, great. So now I'll skip ahead and do one more of these. Let's do the last one of these, and then we'll move on to test taking strategies. Okay, 2 minutes on the clock for this one. Okay, so anybody who thinks they have an answer to this, raise your hand. Oops, sorry. Sorry. Marcos, why don't you take a swing at this?
I promise you review my vocabulary and math the next week. I only can give you the answer, right? 100 to me is 100, but I don't know if I am correct. Thank you so much.
I believe you are. So what I did for this, so, just substituted 2a for 10 root 2. And, then 10 root 2, you can, so you can take 10, since you can basically reabsorb 10 into the radical. So 10 root 2 equals, 10 root 2 equals, so 10 is the square root of 100, so it equals the square root of 100 times the square root of 2, which is the square root of 200. And if the square root of 200 equals the square root of 2x, then x equals 100. Great. Great job, everyone. So Manny, you want to talk about strategies for taking the test?
Yeah, I can definitely talk about that. All right. So yeah, when we're taking the SAT math test, strategies are some of the most important things that we'll have in our tool set in order to move through the test much more easily and actually answer questions more correctly. So one of the first strategies that you'll need to use when taking the test is to translate. And so, like it says here, the difficulty in word problems isn't necessarily the math that you're going to have to do, but figuring out exactly which, um, you know, math concepts or math operations that you're going to need to do is actually the hard part. Figuring out what needs to be done in order to answer the question is what makes the question a bit more difficult. And just like the questions that we did a couple minutes ago, some of the problems might not even give you answer choices, but they'll ask you to um, choose an equation that expresses what the question's asking. And it can be confusing to try and figure out the answer when they give you a set of words. So, like we talked about a little bit earlier, it's very important and it's always best to pick out the important stuff that's in the word problem and, translate it into math terms or a math equation. And this just means that we should try and write the operations that the problem's asking us to do using symbols and numbers that we're more familiar with when it comes to math instead of the words of the problem. So ultimately, it's just about taking what you read in those word problems and translating it, converting it into numbers and symbols that you can much more easily understand. So here are a couple of different words, keywords that can help you figure out what exactly it is that you're going to be doing. So, for example, some or more than might lead you to add, or the word difference or less than might lead you to use subtraction. The product or of or times might draw you to use multiplication and so on and so forth. These are a lot of very important keywords that you might want to think about when you're answering questions. They'll help you to translate and figure out what operation you need to use in order to solve the problem. Another very important strategy that we use when we're in the SAT math test is to plug and solve. Some of the problems that we go through, you'll be able to plug in answers and to see if they work. It can be very helpful, but sometimes it takes up your time. So this strategy is probably best for problems that you're not too sure of that are, more difficult or tricky, or for problems that it just makes sense to actually plug in. If you have time, it's actually a very good idea to plug your answer back into the question so that you can check and see if you've gotten it correct. And a lot of times, plugging and solving is very helpful when you're doing systems of equations or other algebra problems where you have variables that you can easily plug the answers into in order to check and see if things work out. Figures. Figures are often very helpful. Figures are, if everyone's familiar with those are like, the little diagrams or pictures or graphs or just anything visual that comes along with the question. Figures can be very helpful. And unless the test tells us otherwise, every single one of those figures that are on the test are drawn to scale. So it's important to, just take a look at them and try to see what exactly in them makes sense. But it's very important to, pay attention to the numbers instead of, what your gut feeling is. If there isn't a figure, definitely feel free to draw one. There's room to do scratch work on the note sheet, and figures just help you, make more sense of the equations that you're seeing, or, maybe if you're dealing with something like geometry or trigonometry or anything of that nature, figures can really help you put things into context and help you figure out what exactly it is that you're looking for. So yeah, definitely pay attention to figures, and if you don't have figures, definitely draw those and, give yourself a bit more context. Smart guessing. This one is a very important one. Very important one. You might, run into issues with certain problems, and if you're not able to find an answer, sometimes the best thing that you can do is to guess. Like Jack mentioned before, the SAT doesn't penalize guessing, so definitely don't leave any blank. Even if you can't necessarily figure out what the answer is, um, like we mentioned before, there's a definite chance you'll be able to eliminate some obviously wrong answers. So definitely knock out all of the answers that you can before you guess to increase the chances of getting it right. But at the end of the day, like we mentioned before, the SAT doesn't penalize guessing. So if you have no idea, you know, use what you can to guess the correct answer and keep moving so that you don't waste time on any of the questions that you have uh, later on in the test. And this is probably one of the more important things. So calculator use is it's a very, you know, um, it can be a little bit controversial for some people sometimes. Calculators are very helpful, yes, but like we mentioned here, don't let it be a crutch. Calculator use is something that can eat up your time, and sometimes you don't really need to use a calculator. Um, the College Board has a list of calculators that they will allow you to use on the test. So definitely look at that list to see which ones are appropriate for you to use. Um, Generally, they will, approve any normal graphing or scientific calculator, such as, things like the TI-83, if you're, um, you know, familiar with Texas Instruments calculators. A lot of those are definitely ones that they allow. Um, it would be very helpful for you to, change batteries and make sure that um, the calculator works the way that you expect it to the night before the test, just to be sure that everything will be smooth on test day. But ultimately, though, the calculator is a tool just like the rest of these strategies are. You don't want to rely on it too much. There are questions you'll run into that oftentimes you'll figure out might be easier to solve faster without a calculator than with one. If you need a calculator, there's nothing wrong with that, but just make sure that you think about whether or not this is a question I can solve much easier with, just head work instead of using a calculator. So yeah, calculators are very helpful, but like we mentioned, don't let it be a crutch. Um, Finding patterns, trying to find patterns. After you practice enough over these tests, you start to see patterns in a lot of different problems. So that means when you're recognizing exactly what patterns are in play, you'll know what to expect when you get to the test. Um, One of the most important things to do is to keep track of what you get wrong so you know what to learn, what to review, or what to practice. One of the most important things for me, although I didn't take the SAT, I think this applies to almost any other standardized test you could take. When you find, certain patterns or you realize some of the things that you struggle with, that gives you a lot more confidence to go practice and review those things. The more and more that you work on those areas that you're not as strong in, the easier it will be to tackle questions of that type in the future. So definitely keep track of the things you struggle with or the things that you're good at too. So that way you can understand how the test will move in, future times. So yeah, those were some of the strategies that we think are very important for the test. And now we're jumping into the section of math that you are allowed to use a calculator on. All right, so this question here, in the figure above, lines L and M are parallel and lines S and T are parallel. If the measure of angle 1 is 35 degrees, what is the measure of angle 2? I'm going to put 2 minutes on the clock. This question deals with figures as well, so keep in mind what the picture is telling us here and try and use that to solve. So I'll start the timer now.
Manny, do you have the answer sheets up for this, or should I pull it up?
Sorry, yeah, I've got the answer sheets.
Great.
Yeah, thanks though, Jack. All right, so if anybody has the answer and they'd like to explain how they got there, feel free.
Me, I want to explain it.
All right, Mariana.
Since the problem says that lines L and M are parallel and lines S and T are parallel, we can assume that angles 1 and 2 are complementary angles, which means that the sum of both it would be 180. And so what I did was I like yeah, so what I did was to have like reduce to subtract to 180 35, which is the angle number 1, and the answer is 145, letter D.
That's correct. Yeah, great job.
One thing that's just about that last one.
Yeah.
It's worth noting that I think there's the only that one angle which is obtuse. So, all the others are, less than 90 degrees, and 2 is more than 90 degrees, and D is the only angle measurement that's over 90. I mean, it's better to actually find the answer, but like the figure is to scale, so you could, theory, get there that way.
Yeah, that's a very, very important tip as well. A lot of times with those geometry problems, usually when they're drawn to scale, it's very easy just to use those visual cues or those details about the diagram or the figure that make a lot more sense with the answer as well. It'll help you save a bit more time, but yeah, if you can solve it that much quicker, it's a good option to consider. Thanks for that one, Jack. All right, so this next question, a hospital stores one type of medicine in 2 decagram containers. Based on the information given in the box above, how many 1 milligram doses are there in one 2 decagram container? And it gives us a little box with 2 details, that 1 decagram equals 10 grams and 1,000 milligrams is 1 gram. So we'll pay attention to that one in order to solve this here. And I'll set 2 minutes on the timer starting now. Okay, there are about 20 seconds left. If you're done, feel free to raise your hand. All right, that's 2 minutes. So how about we have Marcos tackle this one?
Okay, thank you so much. To me, the correct answer is letter D.
All right, could you explain how you got there?
Well, basically, we have to make a sort of translations between decagrams and grams, and then convert that grams into the milligrams. So we know that 1 decagram is equal to 10 grams, right? And we have 2 decagram container. So we have to convert that container into milligram. So as 1 decagram is equal to 10 grams, so this 2 decagram is equal to 20 grams. Then we have to use the second equation or the second expression that 1,000 milligrams is equal to 1 gram, and then make the conversion. So the correct answer is letter D, but I don't know if I am correct. Thank you so much, Manny.
You're welcome, Marcos. And yes, you're correct. This question, again, is just all about unit conversion and, just paying attention to those details. I think as long as you're paying very close attention to the relationship between grams and decagrams, it shouldn't be too hard to convert these numbers. But again, if there was any sort of answer on this question that would trip you up, it might be something like C. But again, this is just one of those quick unit conversion problems. So as long as you stay focused and remember exactly the relationships between converting, you should be totally fine. So yeah, great job. All right, next question. All right, here we have another figure. This time it's a bar graph. And it gives us the number of seeds in each of 12 apples. So we have the number of seeds at the bottom and the number of apples on the left-hand side. So this question basically asks, based on the histogram above, of the following, which is closest to the average or the mean number of seeds per apple? So I'm going to set 2 minutes starting now. All right, there are about 20 seconds left. All right. If you have the answer, feel free to raise your hand. Okay, why don't you explain to us the answer, Mariana?
Yeah, I don't know if I am okay, but what I did was getting the mean, the arithmetic mean, by summing like 2 plus 4 plus 1 plus 2 plus 3, and then I like search which one was like the closest to the mean, which like bar was closest to the mean, and yeah.
Okay. Oh, so the answer that was correct was letter C.
Yes.
So yeah, correct. So basically this one here, it's just like you were doing, simple arithmetic, but I think if there's anything confusing about this problem, it's just the fact that these number of apples also have a number of seeds with them. So although there probably would be enough time to uh, solve it like this, I'd be a bit careful to make sure I'm not taking too much time on this question. But yes, it's important just to remember that 2 apples would have 3 seeds in them, and so on and so forth. So by adding up that number of seeds, and then just dividing by each, you know, of the apples, it'll be very easy and straightforward to find the number of seeds. So yeah, the number of seeds per apple is 6 for this one. Great job. All right, next question. All right. The equation above, which is h equals negative 4.9 t squared plus 25t, expresses the approximate height h in meters of a ball t seconds after it is launched vertically upward from the ground with an initial velocity of 25 meters per second. After approximately how many seconds will the ball hit the ground? So this question is going to probably take the use of one of the strategies we talked about, but I'll let you all figure that one out. And I'll put 2 minutes on the clock and we'll start right now. All right, we have about 30 seconds left. All right, so if anybody is if anybody wants to explain the answer they got and how they got the answer, feel free. Anyone?
I think I can answer.
All right.
I'm not sure, but okay. So the problem says that like after like how many seconds the ball will be in the ground, on the ground. So I equals h to 0. So it was 0 equals minus 4.9, etc. And then I passed the minus 4.9 t squared to the other side of the equation, and I got, well, 4.9 t squared equals 25t. And then I passed dividing the 4.9, so I did 25 divided by 4.9, and I got like chi squared equals 5.1 t, and then I passed dividing the t to the other side, so I had t equals 5.9, that it's 5 seconds approximately. So I got to D, answer D.
Give me a second here. Okay, so I believe for that question, your answer is correct.
Yes, D, right?
Yes, your answer is correct. D.
Yeah, I
So,
did it like with another like thing, but
Mhm.
I also got that D is the correct answer.
Interesting. Do you mind giving us just a little bit of that?
Yeah, so I like learned how to put in my calculator, well, how to do in my calculator the general formula. So I put that A was 4.9, well, minus 4.9, B was 25, and C was 0. So I like did the formula, the general formula, and the T1 was 0, I think, and the T2 I got 5.1. So I think that it is 5.
Sweet, that's really good. That's really good. Yeah, so I think this question right here is actually a very perfect example of how you can use either head work like Pietro did, or use very crafty and really sweet calculator skills as well to solve a problem. If you and depending on how much practice that you've had in either way, one might be quicker for you than the other. So there's not necessarily a wrong way to approach answering a question, so much as you have practiced it before and you're confident that you can find the answer with it. So yeah, great job, you two. All right. I do think we're running a little bit over time, but I do think we'll have time for maybe one or two more questions. So let's move on to the next question. All right. So this question here, Katarina is a botanist studying the production of pears by two types of pear trees. She noticed that type A trees produced 20% more pears than type B trees did. Based on Katarina's observation, if the type A trees produced 144 pears, how many pears did the type B trees produce? So it looks like this question is having us compare types of trees. So let's keep that in mind and see if we can solve this here. I'll put 2 minutes on the clock and we'll start right now. right, we have about 30 seconds left. If you believe if you think you got the answer, feel free to raise your hand if you'd like. All right, I see some of you have your hands up. Nice. All right, so 2 minutes is up. So how about we have Paula answer question?
Yes, thank you. So basically what the question is asking you to do is take away 20% from 144, if I'm right. So you can translate taking away 20% of any number by multiplying it by 0.8. So basically what I did was take 144, multiply that by 0.8, and I got 115. And so my answer was letter A.
Interesting. So the correct answer for 26 is actually letter B. So I do think the math that you did there was actually very interesting, and it made a lot of sense. But I think the only problem with that one is when we multiplied by 80%, I guess by doing so, we didn't necessarily account too much for the difference because we already assumed that it was covered by multiplying by 80%. But I understand the logic that you went through to do it that way. I think when solving this one, the question wanted us to use to probably just go that same route of subtracting that 20%. So taking 20% of 144 and then subtracting from that in order to get 120, if I'm correct. Yeah, I think the question also was kind of dealing with just proportions as well. So, but yeah, the correct answer was 120. But that was very, very close though.
Manny, I have a doubt, Manny. Can you help me? I'm agree with you. Basically, the argument is very clear to me. But following you, the answer is not letter A. I mean, if we have the 20% of 144, it's 78.8, no? The 20% of 144 is 28.8, right? Then we have to restart this number to 144, and the answer is 115.2. I am correct, or what I not doing? What is my mistake?
I think you can explain the situation. Yeah. Okay.
Go ahead, Mauricio.
Okay. I think the issue is that you are I don't know. I don't remember the word. You are looking for the 80% of 144. Or in other words, you are looking for the 80% of the type A, and you have. I think that you have to look for the 80% of the other type. So what I did is multiply 144 by 100, and the result I divided the result by 100, 120 because you are, I don't know how to say, you are adding, you're adding a 20% of the total, right?
Yeah.
I think that that's it.
Yeah.
That's the
Yeah.
procedure.
Yeah, thank you, Mauricio. Actually, yes, you're right. I do think I could have explained it a bit more clearly that way. Yeah, basically, what Mauricio was talking about is that the type A trees produce 20% more. The 20% more, I think, tripped a lot of us up. We were thinking maybe the 20% more meant that we needed to um, subtract instead of add. So what we needed to do was tack on that 20% to what was already there, if that makes sense. So we're looking to find exactly what the type B trees were um, before we tacked on that 20%. But in order to do that, we had to add that 20% onto what already was there. And then by doing that, we would divide 144 by that 120% in order to get the answer. So yeah. So the correct answer in that case would have been 120. All right. I think we have time for about one more question, so we can move to the next one. All right. So this last question that we'll be doing says that which of the following is an equation of a circle in the xy plane with center 0, 4 and a radius with endpoint 4/3 and 5. So if you aren't necessarily familiar with the equation of a circle or anything of that nature, that's totally fine. This is just a question that will get you more familiar with that, but we will set 2 minutes on the clock and I will start right now. All right, we have about 30 seconds left. If you have the answer, feel free to raise your hand. All right, that's about time. So think, Paula, you have the answer?
Oh, sorry, I forgot to, I mean, I do have one, but I forgot to lower my hand actually. I mean,
Okay.
like the
I
first
mean,
thing that I did was eliminate answer B and D because the center is 0 and 4. And so it would have to be 0 and -4 for there to be a positive sign.
Gotcha.
So B and D I eliminated, and I didn't get to the other part. So sorry.
Oh no, that's totally cool. But yeah, that's very good. Process of elimination is one of the most important things in our tool set when we're solving these problems. So that's very good because now we know that the answer has to be either A or C. So if anybody else has the answer and they'd like to share, feel free to. If not, I can definitely explain this one.
Yes, I can remember the equation cycle, so I'm going to review it, and maybe the next week I can give you an explanation. Thank you so much.
No problem, Marcos. So yeah, so the correct answer for this question is actually A. So I think one of the most important things to pay attention to in this question was the fact that they gave us a center, but also an endpoint of, I think it was, yeah, they gave us a endpoint of 4/3 and 5. And so sometimes there will be details in each question that will kind of trip us up in the sense that they give us two different ones, but we have to pay attention to which ones they actually are. For the equation of a circle, it's important that we figure out um, that the center are the numbers that we'll need to put into the first part. That radius with the endpoint, what we need to do with that is use something we'd call the distance formula, to where we would calculate the distance between those points. Marcos, you raised your hand?
No, sorry, Manny. It was a mistake.
Oh, no, that's okay. Yeah, yeah, so after we use that distance formula, we'd figure out what the distance between those 2 points is to give us our radius. And in that case, that would have been 5/3. And so by doing so, squaring all of those different things would give us the x² plus y - 4² equals 25/9. And that would be our equation of the circle. I think this question is just another example of that strategy we're talking about with translating a little bit and figuring out exactly which parts of the although they did give us these parts of the equation a bit more directly than other ones, still it's very important to translate, especially with that last part of the question. They wanted us to use the radius in order to, well, the endpoint to find that radius. They wanted us to use that endpoint to figure out exactly which numbers that we need to plug into the equation again. So yeah, that is about all the questions that we have for today. We ran a little bit over time, but there's a lot of different, you know, types of questions that you'll encounter on the SAT, especially when it comes to the math section. But Using those strategies that we talked about earlier in terms of translating, plugging in and solving the equations, using figures, or, guessing, or, your calculator, or finding patterns within the questions. All of those can definitely help you out. After this session, I think we'll try to send you a practice test, or direct you to where you'll be able to find resources to practice on these sections. And afterwards, we'll definitely go over other sections of the SAT in different meetings. So you'll be able to get a different feel of how the SAT works in each section, as this is just one of them. So if you have any other questions, feel free to, reach out. I think I'll try and drop my email into the chat, if that's fine. Yeah, thank you all for coming to today's session and taking time to, learn a little bit of, things about the SAT, or get familiar with it. Yeah, thank you all for coming. It's really, really great.
Before, thank you, Manny. Before everyone just go out from this session, I would like to ask Manny, this information that you were telling them that you will share by email, or it's something that you can share with them right now through the chat?
Yeah, I can definitely send. I can send the link to this specific practice test into the chat, if that's fine. Yeah, if I do need to send it by email, I can totally do that as well.
Okay, perfect.
So yeah,
maybe we can share with them right now, and later on we can share with them as well by email, just in case. And while you do that, Manny, I would like, I am Marta Beltran, from one of the advisors, Education USA advisors, in our advising center in Mexico City. As Manny said, thank you very much for attending this session, and I would like to remind to you all that this is the first session in this SAT prep. And this is a series of six sessions. So please feel free to attend the next sessions. They will be here, Manny and Jack, with you, following up next Monday. So every Monday we will have these sessions. You can find the information in our social media as well. And all of you that already registered to this first session, you don't need to register again for the following. Like with the same link, you will be able to attend and to join these online sessions every Monday. And tomorrow, Manny and Jack will also will be participating in a conversation club. So we are very happy to invite all of you. If you want to join, it will be tomorrow. Manny, it's at 10:30, the conversation club, right? Yeah, it's tomorrow at 10:30. If you want to follow as well some information about this process, admissions process in the US, they will be also within Instagram on Wednesday, 22nd at 12. It will be Instagram Live. And we want to also invite you for another conversation club with them on Thursday, 23rd at 10:30. And if you want to join us and enjoy game night as well, they will be on Friday, 24th at 5. from 5 to 6 as well. So if you want to join, it will be really nice and to have a fun night with them, with these games. So Manny, if you want to say something else.
No, thank you so much to everybody, Jack, you, and obviously Manny, everybody, Sophia, Mauricio. See you the next week. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Marcos, and thank you, everyone.
Yeah, thank you all for showing up today. Yeah, it's been really good. I hope you all took something away from today. And like Martha explained, we'll be back every Monday to go over different sections of the test. So definitely be there so that we can learn even more than we did today. So yeah, thank you all again. And I hope you all have a great day.
Oh, thank you so much. Bye.
Bye.
Adios.
Bye.
Adiós, abrazos, gracias. Have a good one.
Gracias, igualmente.